I had long been interested in the Plantagenets, the fall of the Plantagenet dynasty, how the Tudors gradually eliminated their dynastic rivals. And so I decided to start, when I finished on the Six Wives, I decided to start on a project on the fall of the Plantagenets. And it was a vast period from the deposition of Richard II in 1399 to the imprisonment of the last sprigs of the Plantagenet line in the Tower in the 1560s. And I found I was getting a lot of information on the princes in the Tower. Now, I had long been fascinated by the subject, and I thought Richard III had been very much maligned. For 25 years, I thought that. And I thought, really, at the time, I thought, oh, I'm getting a lot on the Prince of the Tower. I'd love to write something on that. But everything's been said that could be said. And there was a television trial in 1984. And I managed to get the transcript of that trial, because no DVDs then. And when I looked at it, I thought, no, I had enough information to know that we hadn't ploughed every furrow, and that there was more to be said, because I know now that what gets into a historical documentary or program on the television is only sort of, is not really sort of in-depth research. So I thought, I'm going to suggest this, and I suggested it to my agent. I'd like to do a book on the Princes in the Tower and look at the whole thing again and stand back and evaluate the evidence. And he said that would be great. My publishers all wanted to do it. So that's how the Princes in the Tower came about. And then after that, it was the prequel. It was the Wars of the Roses, which is leading up to the drama of the Princes in the Tower. And there was a third book, of course, this book about how the Tudors eliminated their rivals, but I've never written that. I've proposed it several times, but publishers have always taken other titles. My early favourite, I think Children of England is one of my early favourites, about the heirs of Henry VIII. I really enjoy, I'm very at home with the Tudors, and I really enjoyed writing that book. And when I go back to it now, sometimes I think, I wish I could write like that now, but my writing style has changed. I loved writing Elizabeth of York. That was one of my favourite books, because she was the mother of Henry VIII, and she was the sister of the Princes in the Tower, so a very interesting life. As for Isabella, she wasn't called the she-wolf of France in her own lifetime. There's a lot of lurid material being written about Isabella. I don't think she was accused of being behind the murder of her husband, Edward II. I don't think that's true at all. I think she made mistakes in her life, but I think her husband had treated her so badly, you could understand why she turned to another man and led a successful invasion of England that deposed her husband. But it wasn't until the 18th century that she was called the she-wolf of France. And it was actually a term and phrase coined for Margaret of Anjou, the wife of Henry VI in the 15th century. And somehow that got transferred over to Isabella when England was at war with France in the 18th century. And so, I think, I hope I've looked at her fairly. Some say I've been a bit sympathetic towards her. I don't know. I think there have been some rather romantic accounts published since. But I do think that there is just not the evidence to justify her poor reputation. Here was this woman, this queen, she was the perfect queen. I mean, she did everything right up until her endurance was tested to the limit. I think it's the detail that's important. By looking at details, we can sometimes get a wider picture. I also think that it's looking at the facts and sort of arguing your way through them in print. And making it clear how you've reached the decisions you have, the conclusions you have. And I think it's inferring what you can about character to make your figures live. There are parameters, of course, to writing non-fiction history. You have to, and you have the strict discipline of keeping to the sources and what you can legitimately infer from them. It's interesting to look at the sources again and to chop them up, as it were, cut and paste them into chronological order. Sometimes new things emerge from that. And if you marry that together with information about your characters, the outside events, information about the palaces, the places they lived, and everyday life, sometimes a different picture emerges. In fact, it's happened several times.